Hey everybody, welcome to Keyword Crypto. This is Michael, and I have a guest CEO and co-founder of Superworld, Hrish Lotlikar. So Hrish, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it. Really excited to be here on your show.
So first off, let's just get into the basics. What is Superworld, and what are you guys trying to achieve with it?
Superworld is a virtual world in augmented reality mapped on top of the real world. So we're in it right now. Everyone is in it. It covers the surface of the world in augmented reality. And so, if I come to, as an example, New York or LA or Miami or, London or Paris or Tokyo, anywhere in the world, you could say to me, Hrish, why don't you check out my world? And I could walk around and you've left me things. You've left a hologram of yourself somewhere, totally interactive. I can talk to you. You've left photos and videos in different places. You've left messages at your favorite restaurants about what I should eat and drink. You've personalized the real world in augmented reality. I have a world, you have a world, brands have worlds. So Nike could put a shoe at the park next to your house, totally interactive, spinning Nike shoe. But, your favorite car company could leave a car there for you to check out as well. So any spot in space can have an infinite number of items depending on what world you're looking at. My world, your world, Coca-Cola's world, Nike's world. These are all infinite number of worlds. They're all filters on top of the real world. So the first part of the super world analogy is Pokemon Go, which what I describe as, putting digital information on the real world. The second part of the superworld analogy is Foursquare. That's a data analogy. On the data side, we believe in data integrity, data sovereignty. Basically, we want to figure out how we can best use data to enhance people's real lives and enhance the real world. As an example of that, when you use Superworld, you'll earn crypto. And also, we will benefit the real world from your user activity. As an example of that, when you buy a plot of virtual land in Superworld right now, as an example, we'll plant a tree in the real world. So we want to do things just like that. That's just the beginning. Last week or couple of weeks ago, we started on an initiative where we're cleaning up the water in Flint, Michigan. We're doing things now to reforest the Amazon. We're helping the World Bank with hurricane season this fall. And we're working on COP26, which is all about climate change. So the second part of the Superworld analogy is utilizing data, but really our why is how do we enhance humanity and build a better world? And then the third part of our analogy is monopoly, which is we've divided the surface of the earth into 64 billion virtual blocks, each block covering a city block of land, 100 meters by 100 meters squared. And each of these blocks is structured as an NFT. So you can buy any place on top of the world. And if you buy that place, you get a share of any of the economics: advertising, e-commerce, digital commerce, data, analytics, gaming, anything that results in revenue. And so that's how Superworld works. And on top of that, we're building applications. We have a mobile app that allows you to create, discover, and monetize anything, anywhere. We have an NFT Marketplace, which allows you to create digital assets out of any content. And finally, we're moving into tokenization and DeFi in Q4 of this year.
Okay, so let me ask a clarifying question, because this is something that confused me a little bit. Let's say I buy Times Square. And I'm the only person who obviously owns Times Square. So you're saying that in the infinite universes of Superworld, where every single person has their own world, if they follow Nike, for like you said, and Nike puts an advertisement for them in their and their personal virtual world because they follow Nike. You're saying that when Nike put it there for them, I would get a cut of I would get paid for that.
Yeah, that's right. So when you own a plot of land, you get a share of any of the revenues that happen not only in your world, but you get a share of anything that happens in any of the infinite filters of the world that exist in a location.
Okay, so that your response to that question cuts out like 10 of my questions that I had for you now because it was going into the whole thing of the like capitalism versus socialism versus this versus that, and I was like, well, what's going to happen if I own Times Square? Do I have the ability to stop somebody from coming into Times Square now? And like, what are the rules and ethics of that? But that that makes so much more sense. It just seems like you cut out like a million potential hazards with one go on that one. Um, with 64 billion plots, that seems like a lot, but in actuality, with the way, and for people new to this show, if you're unfamiliar, people who are regulars will know that I'm like hardcore 99%. So I'm always asking these kind of ethical questions of like, capitalism versus socialism and just the idea of mass consumption. What's going to stop people from buying up like two people buying up like 80% of Superworld? Is there any kind of way to I mean, obviously, because if it's fully decentralized, you really can't stop anybody from doing anything. But do you have any kind of like ideas in place to try to discourage that in some way?
Well, I think that being that there's 64 billion plots and each plot runs around $300 right now, there can be large buyers of plots, and there are buyers of many, many plots on Superworld. But I think the thing that prevents, anyone from buying it all or holding it all is the same, market types of forces that prevents someone from buying up a whole city or buying up a whole country or, buying up the whole world in the physical world. Not to say that, the physical world does cost a lot more than Superworld does, but people
Yeah,
people want to sell as well. They
yeah,
want to buy, and when demand increases, if there is another buyer, they might want to sell to that buyer. Or any typical auction, what prevents anyone from buying the whole inventory of every auction house in the world?
sure, yeah.
They want the selling opportunity as well. And so, I mean, you do find certain buyers have certain interests, and they'll acquire a lot of properties along those interests. Um, but they're all also very keen to, sell if there's an opportunity as well, and buy when there's the right time. So you see a lot of buying and selling pressure and demand, and the ability for a buyer to liquidate and want to liquidate at certain times, and buy at certain other times. And we're facilitating that at Superworld. So we're working on providing all sorts of data to virtual land buyers regarding their virtual land that enables them to have, better pricing decisions so they can buy and sell at the right times. And so we're going to provide them with that information, the dynamic pricing information that corresponds to not only real world physical land pricing dynamics, but also to understanding what's happening in Superworld at those specific locations, as well as understanding, potential other valuation parameters that affect the value of their land. And so, again, we want people to, create a very active property ecosystem, and that's what we're working on.
I mean, I'm a big fan of free market. I, the only reason I asked is like, if in the perfect world, let's say Superworld wins out, crushes everybody else, every single person on the planet's using it, and every single person is living half their life in there, at what point would we face similar economic situations like we are in New York and San Francisco and Los Angeles, where poor people are priced out to a point where it just makes it even hard to participate in the system anymore. But that's so far off, dude. You don't have to go down that rabbit hole with me.
Well, one thing I will comment on is in Superworld, the real estate is one way of participating. The base foundational way of participating in Superworld doesn't require you to necessarily purchase anything. So you can use Superworld for free. You can create your own digital assets in our NFT marketplace. In Q4 of this year, we'll also have a Superworld token. Again, buying that token is another way of participating. Staking tokens, staking NFTs are other ways of participating. So we want to really make it as accessible as possible. And in the future, also, we'll potentially have fractionalization of real estate. So you don't have to buy a whole plot, but you could buy, fractions of any plot.
Yeah. How explain to me how it works with building on a plot. Like, what could, like, so let's say I bought a blank canvas, like somewhere out in Wyoming, like the plateaus of Wyoming. What could I do with that plot feasibly? Like, could I build like a Minecraft empire where it didn't look like Wyoming anymore? Like explain what I like the possibilities and options I have at my disposal if I buy a plot.
Yeah. So, I think on the highest level, the best way to think about this is you can create anything anywhere in Superworld. And what that means is the whole world is a video game, right? And so again, if the whole world was a video game and you could utilize, your favorite engine, Maya, Blender, we're built in Unity in our mobile app. We're also integrating with Unreal Engine. And even if you're not a developer, you can utilize our tools to put anything anywhere, or utilize one of our AR developer partners to create content anywhere. Essentially, you have the ability to create anything anywhere. And so, again, if you bought a piece of farmland, you might want to turn that farmland into the next Burning Man festival, and you might have a certain AR type experience that you want to build there. You might want to build a game somewhere. You might want to build an entertainment experience. If you're a musician, you might want to do a live concert somewhere. If you're an artist, you might want to put an NFT, an art NFT, or any type of NFT anywhere. So again, the possibilities of what you can put somewhere are endless because you're not restricted by the physical world. As an example of that, I was talking to a very well-known architect yesterday, who's partnering with us to create, amazing architecture that he creates in the real world, and he wants to create similar, even more, fantastical buildings in Superworld because he is not limited by, the physical world. So anything is possible anywhere.
Nice. And then to piggyback off that, let's say I own property or a plot of land that people are interacting with. Do I have any control over what they see?
So if you are on a property uh, that is owned by you or owned by anyone, first of all, you have the ability to place anything anywhere. So regardless of whether you own property or not, you can put content anywhere in the world, and so can they. So you don't have a way of controlling what they put anywhere, and they don't have a way of controlling what you put anywhere.
Okay. But can they but does the owner of the property have any ability to make people see what I want them to see?
Well, they have a way of seeing your world, and you can see their world. If you know each other, or if you have certain reasons to see each other's content. Now, as an owner of a property, if someone is on your property, we'll definitely have a way for anyone to see the default view on that property. So, as an owner, you'll have some privileges that just any other content creator doesn't have. So default view is one of those privileges. There's other privileges around, potentially promoting your content or advertising options or, other such privileges that benefit you and incentivize ownership in specific locations.
I was asking because I was thinking in terms of like a political race. If one candidate was fortunate enough to buy that plot of land that they were trying to get elected for, and force every single person in that community to see what he wanted them to see versus what his opponent. So if they went into the virtual world, it would be his campaign ads everywhere, and they couldn't turn that off. So I was wondering if they were forced to see it, or if they had the ability just to flip it off and like go into a blank canvas again and make it their world.
Yeah. So they're not forced to see anything.
Okay.
No one is forced to see anything in Superworld. You have, total freedom to create, discover, and monetize anything anywhere. And we definitely are not creating a way for anyone to be able to pay any sum for you to see anything. There's a really well-known documentary on Netflix right now, which is called The Social Dilemma, that I bring up a lot. And that's a documentary about how, in social media, people, can pay money to basically, program people to believe or think or essentially, control their behavior through data and algorithms. And on the data side of our analogy that I spoke about earlier, what's really important to us is that we utilize Superworld to enhance people's real lives. And we also utilize permissioned use of data. And so we really want to make sure that Superworld is a platform that doesn't suck you in and doesn't program you per se, but really allows you to benefit and to, again, enhance whatever it is that you're interested in learning about or engaging in and being exposed to, but doesn't, again, utilize algorithms to programmatically kind of influence you. That's a very important part of what we're building.
Gotcha. Remind me, is Social Dilemma the one where the actor played the AI and there was like a bunch of him talking to each other and like trying to convince those kids to do this or that, or the family to do this or that?
Yep, that's the one.
That was so good. So good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So audience, if you haven't had a chance to watch The Social Dilemma, I think it's on Netflix, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Such a good documentary.
Yeah. It's so powerful.
It's not even really a documentary. It's like a story almost. But yeah, it definitely freaked me out a little bit about the current direction. So I appreciate the fact that that's in your stream of conscious and you're thinking about that when you're building this.
Yeah.
So, what is my next question? I was looking at your about page, and you have a very eclectic, like, list, like bylines about yourself. Like, how did fashion photography enter your world as somebody? So why don't you tell me a little first? Why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself, and then we can dig into how like fashion photography got into your life.
Okay. Yeah, sure. My background is I was born in India. I grew up in the United States in Houston. I went to Rice University in Houston and then grad school in Illinois. Lived in Madrid, Paris, and London between college and grad school. I've traveled a lot growing up, and I've always loved the world. I've always loved cultures. It's just an honor, and so grateful to be able to do a company like Superworld. Um, the world and travel and cultures has always been in my heart. So went to grad school, and after that was doing management consulting. Got into investment banking on Wall Street in New York, and then venture capital in New York, investing in early stage technology companies. And about 10, 11 years ago, I had a crazy idea, which was one of the first of my crazy ideas, which was, wouldn't it be cool to go somewhere in the emerging markets and start a VC fund? I went over to Eastern Europe. The idea was Eastern Europe and South America. And I went over to Eastern Europe first, traveled everywhere. So I started off in Ukraine, then I went to Russia, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, Moldova. And it took me about a year and a half, but I was able to start a VC fund backed by a very big investor named Victor Pinchuk. He's the guy who backs Yuri Milner. Yuri is a fund manager of a fund called DST, which invested, very big, large amounts in a variety, a lot of tech companies. And so Victor backed me in starting Ace Labs along with two other partners. And then I did the same thing in Belarus. I'm on the board of Tech Minsk, which is based in Minsk, Belarus, and backed by the U.S. State Department. And then after that was early at a company called TopTal. I was the first biz dev there. TopTal is now the largest talent marketplace in the world. It's backed by Andreessen Horowitz. So learned a lot about growing and scaling companies. And then about 5 years ago, started Rogue Initiative Studios, which is a film, television, gaming, and virtual reality studio in Hollywood. My co-founder produced Call of Duty, Modern Warfare series, and Ghosts. And my production partner is Michael Bay, the action director, who's known for Transformers, The Island, Armageddon, Pearl Harbor, Bad Boys, a lot of big action movies. And so at Rogue Initiative, we build franchises that go across feature film, television, gaming, virtual reality, all the way to amusement park rides and toys. And we're backed by a lot of the top AR, VR venture capital funds in Silicon Valley and globally. So I come from the VR, AR industry. And what happened was about 4.5 years ago, Pokemon Go came out and became this huge hit. And I basically got together with my co-founder, Max Woon, and we thought, you know what? Why don't we build a world? Like, what if we build a place where the next 1,000 Pokemon Goes gets built on top of that world? And that was kind of the vision and inspiration for Superworld. So that's kind of the high level story. But to answer your question about fashion photography, when I was living in New York, I got involved in fashion. I got involved in a fashion line. I did about 10 seasons in New York in fashion, New York, London, Paris, in a fashion line. And really just love fashion, love beauty. And, the way I got into fashion photography is we were doing a fashion show in London for London Fashion Week. And there's a very famous musician that you probably know named Bryan Adams. He sang that song, Summer of '69. Have you heard of him?
Yeah, he's pretty famous.
Yeah, very famous. And a lot of people know him as a musician, but there's a lot of people in the fashion world who know him as a fashion photographer. And I was really, struck by that. He's a very close friend of the designer that I was partnered with, and we were at his fashion photography studio in London. And I asked Brian. I said, Brian, everyone knows you as a very famous singer, like one of the most famous singers in the world, and here, a lot of the models and people in the fashion world only know you as a photographer. How did you do that? I was just really just struck by that, and he told me, Rish, just get a camera and start shooting. That's how you do it. And I was like, wow, like that's so cool. You can just do that. And so I did that. I literally went back to New York, bought a camera. I actually went to photo school and I started shooting. And
I mean,
that
it
that
helps
kind
if
of
you have a
stuck
hit
with me.
song like "Have You Ever Really Loved a Woman?" to like pick up a camera and say, "Oh, by the way, I'm Brian Adams. Can I take your picture?"
Well, a lot of people, that's what I meant, like, don't know about his music in the fashion world. They just know him
Okay.
as Brian Adams, the fashion
Yeah,
photographer,
that's so funny.
which is awesome. So, and you see people like Jared Leto, he's like in a band, he's a musician, he's an actor, I mean, and it really just kind of just tells you that really you can do anything in the world you put your mind to. You just need to, take the first step. So that's been really impactful to me.
It's funny because I lived in New York and I was testing for a lot of agencies when I was building out my photography career, and I had this big 2-bedroom in Williamsburg, and I shot out of that. I was all excited, bartended, worked my way up, finally got this really nice Contax 645 medium format camera. And then the Canon 20D came out. And then after that, like Instagram came out, and all of a sudden I was like, it just all started to collapse. My friend's ex-husband was making $300,000 a year, and then went from making that one year to $27,000 the next year because of Instagram and
Wow.
digital cameras. Like nobody wanted to pay for photography anymore because they knew somebody who had a camera who would do it for like $500. And so that was the point that I quit, and I was like, yeah. So when I saw fashion, I was cracking up that I feel like there's a lot of people that have taken that route at some point, especially artists.
Yeah.
So, and I also feel like, and this is such a cliche, but like every single one of my Indian friends started off in Houston.
Oh,
I feel like
really?
it's just like, I mean, is that like just the main spot if they're coming from India that they say like just because because that's the largest Indian community in the U.S., isn't it?
I've heard that. Yeah. Um, I didn't know if that's the case, accurately. I think there's a big Indian community in New Jersey as well. And I think, technically, I think New Jersey is larger, but there is a very large Indian community in Houston. So it's probably pretty close in any case. But yeah, growing up in Houston, there are pockets of, very high concentrations of immigrants from India. And I would probably say it's probably because the weather is the same, or at least that's what my
Yeah.
parents said. you know, yeah.
That I could see that. Um, well, cool. That's interesting. What other so that I was joking around because I still have my 917 number, and I saw your contact the
hmm
contact page on your website, and it said call this number for questions, and it was a 917 number. I was like, is that just some random dude's 917 cell phone number that it's going to start ringing if somebody has a question about Superworld?
Actually, it's a 212 number, which is also a New York number. But yeah, that's true. We do have a New York number. Our map starts in New York, so it makes a lot of sense.
Oh, gotcha. So I was going through your mobile app, and at first I was like, oh, I don't fully understand. And then all of a sudden I realized my volume was off, and I turned it on, and it just kind of, it honestly just blew me away. And it reminded me a lot of Vine in the early days of just like, this is the construct, go be creative. And I'm seeing people just do some of the most interesting things. Um, do you see that as potentially a competitor, something like Instagram, where it becomes more of a social community and people creating and artists like really kind of pushing the back? Because I feel like Vine really kind of turned comedy on its head by forcing people into that 7-second construct and just the amount of creativity that exploded out of that, and for a platform that that pretty much failed, and isn't around anymore. Like, how many people became famous because of those 7-second videos? Is that kind of the goal with your app?
Yeah, I think part of Superworld is, basically allowing our super citizens and users to create content, share content in the world, and, really create a very social type of mechanic where, you can see what's being placed regardless of where you are in the world, and also be able to access content virtually from anywhere. And that's the whole like discovery part of it is, discover content from anywhere, wherever you happen to be. And, and that content is kind of, as you said, similar to an Instagram or Vine, where you're just seeing content, popular content based on, your interests, and who you're following and things like that. And then again, there's a map layer to it as well, where you can see where content's been placed and be able to visit places. To be clear, the mobile app is still in an open beta, so we just kind of have it out there. We're building in public, and we have a lot of things that are under the hood, that we're building. Actually, an interesting note is we just got joined by the guy who did the Travis Scott concert in Fortnite. He just joined our team, and he's going to be running the mobile app upgrade that we're currently building out. So we launched the mobile app in open beta, just have it out there for people to play with and for us to understand what people want to do with it, what people are doing with it. And as you see, people are putting NFTs in the real world. People are creating lots of interesting content, and we are, upgrading that to do all the other use cases that we know is interesting to our users. And what's cool about it as well is they're telling us exactly what they want us to build. Property owners are, literally being very communicative with us, which is great, and literally giving us a list of features that they want us to build. And, many of those people are saying the same exact things. So, all kind of really lines up. And so that's kind of what we're working on right now. But yeah, to answer your question, I think there's going to be a big social aspect of the content creation and discovery of this. And I think there's going to be a big social context of, as well as the monetization of Superworld, where people might even collaborate to monetize together. And that's happening, with NFTs, where, people get together, create NFTs, and then split the revenues as well.
Yeah, I saw a big Bored Ape billboard up there somewhere, and on one, and people doing some interesting stuff with dinosaurs. I mean, just like, I feel like it's AR version 1.0, but even that's interesting to see what people are starting to come up with. And I feel like the trick is is the young generation, like the teenagers and the early 20s, when they finally get on it, they're the ones who like feel like just instinctually push the creativity to the next level, where people who are just kind of figuring it out don't really think about it in those terms. So you said NFTs. Explain how that works in Superworld. Like, let's say I have an NFT, and let's say I want to have like a gallery showing of my NFTs, and people pay, like, obviously this is way too high right now, but like, say like the cover charge is 1 ETH, and I don't own that plot of land. How would that, where would that 1 ETH go to? What happens to my IP? Is there any danger of losing my IP or somebody infringing on it? Like, how does that all work? Like, how are you dealing with artists in that sense?
Yeah, so we have the NFT Marketplace, which is in closed beta right now. We did a drop with the Flint, Michigan, to help confront the Flint water crisis. We have another drop coming up with the World Bank this week for hurricane season. So on the NFT side of it, first of all, we've been focused on creating NFTs that have some unique elements to them, and support causes and create social impact. We want to differentiate what we're doing in Superworld. And so, again, another aspect of that is you can put NFTs into Superworld, into augmented reality. So you're not just looking at NFTs on your 2D screen, but instead being able to see them around you in the real world. And so by being able to put NFTs in real world locations, when those NFTs are bought and sold, the revenue that comes to Superworld from that transaction, a percentage of that revenue will go to the real estate owner. And so we want to be able to enable real estate owners, again, to earn and share in revenue from advertising, e-commerce, digital commerce, data analytics, and gaming. And an NFT, obviously would be considered digital commerce in this case. And so again, on the creation aspect of it, in terms of IP, the IP owner is the creator of the NFT, and that IP owner and the creator of the NFT can decide what are all the cash flow streams that can be selected from selling that NFT. And I think there's about 7 wallets that they can choose from. And then one of those cash flows will go to Superworld, and then that would be split with the location where that NFT was eventually sold. And again, that split will go to the real estate owner.
And um, in most NFT platforms right now, let's say I create an NFT, I have the ability to set my fee structure on future sales. Will plot owners have that ability, or is it always going to be a set price fixed rate set by Superworld?
No, you can set your fee structure as an NFT creator, just like any other NFT platform. So if you're creating an NFT, you can, set your splits. On the plot owner side, again, you're receiving a share of any of the monetization that occurs, and that will be set by Superworld in terms of what the exact splits are based on the specific type of monetization. We're going to have a variety of different ways to monetize, as well as we're going to have, different types of splits based on whether there's, 2 parties involved in that split, 3 parties or more involved in a split, for a variety of reasons. And so Superworld will be kind of setting what those splits are. But on the NFT side of it, where you're creating an NFT, just like anywhere else, you're going to be able to select how many splits there are and what they are.
Okay, nice. You've traveled a lot and you've experienced a lot. What aspects of that? What aspects of your experiences around the world are you trying to incorporate personally into Superworld? Like, is there something that you specifically remember from traveling to a certain location where you said, like, I really feel like AR could fix something here? Not just physically, because I know you're planting trees and you're helping actually fix, the water in Flint. But is there something that you feel like the AR version can actually help people in those areas?
Yeah, no, I think that's a really great question. And, being that we are building an immersive platform, AR, VR, and be clear, just it's also technically VR. We say AR a lot because we're mapped on top of the real world, but really you can go into a fully immersive virtual environment from anywhere as well. And I think, the real power of immersive technology and immersive computing is, again, the world is a video game, and you can really build anything you want and create and discover anything anywhere. And, I've always been really fascinated with empowering people to have the ability to do anything anywhere with anyone at any time at any place. And I think that's freedom when you can do that. And AR VR technology gives us that ability to be able to transport ourselves, to see things, to experience things, to travel virtually, to even in our own physical environment, be able to augment that environment with, information and content and experiences that enrich our lives. And to me, that is really exciting to be able to build a platform that really gives people the power to experience all these things, regardless of you know where they are, or what they're in, in a very cost efficient way, right? I mean, to be able to travel like this without getting on a plane or getting in a car, to be able to experience content, to be able to see what potentially people are doing in other parts of the world, to go to a live concert, or to be able to meet your friends and communicate with your friends virtually, is so much more compelling than on a video call or on a phone call. And so I've really been, enamored with the potential and the empowerment that can be provided for people from these technologies. And so that's what I want to provide. That's the kind of things that we want to build into Superworld. Those magical elements that immersive technology can provide to our super citizens, not only to experience things, but also to create their own things that other people can experience, and to be able to monetize all those things, and to create ways to, earn money. A lot of people have heard of the concept play to earn. In Superworld, we have live to earn, because Superworld is all around us, and it's all focused on reality and your reality. So those are the kinds of things that we want to build into the platform.
Nice. So you're obviously forward thinking by building out something that probably only, I'd probably say, like 0.02% of the population of the planet could feasibly use right now. What's your timeline for thinking of like when the majority of people could actually use it? Like, do you see the technology shifting in a way so where, 10 years ago, maybe 1% of the people on the planet had a smartphone, and now 90% of people probably have one? How quickly do you see VR being a reality for the majority of the planet? Or are you even thinking about that? Or are you just thinking about, we're building this and eventually people will come in?
Well, I mean, to also be clear, the thing that really inspired us here was, what Pokemon Go did, and how they really created a platform that, as many people know, became this worldwide sensation. A lot of people don't know, but it was the fastest company in history to hit $1 billion in revenue in history, right? Did it in about 7 months. And a lot of other people don't know that this was one of their best years ever. So they've been doing really well. It's a company called Niantic, and the reason that's the case is because they are built on mobile phones, and something like close to 3.5 billion mobile phones right now are AR enabled, and soon to be 6 billion mobile phones. And so when you think about accessibility when it comes to mobile AR, it's pretty accessible. I mean, 3.5 billion mobile phones are AR enabled right now. Every new mobile phone, every new smartphone that hits the market has AR capabilities. And so really, there's a much larger percentage of the population than the 0.2 you mentioned. Probably, 50 to 60% of the population likely has a mobile phone that has AR capabilities, and so and that number is going higher by the day as we all get the latest smartphones, or at least a smartphone that's come out in the last 5 to 6 years. And so again, that was a reason that we've decided to build on mobile, specifically in augmented reality, as opposed to building in a VR headset, which is a much, 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 much smaller demographic that has a VR headset. And I have a background in this. I have another, film, television, VR studio as well, and so I was aware of kind of the challenges of building in VR, and it made a lot more sense for us to build augmented reality and mobile first. And then again, as AR glasses come out, I'd say in the next year, Apple, Facebook, Google, there's a lot of manufacturers all over the world that are taking advantage of the Qualcomm Snapdragon chip that really democratized the ability for any hardware manufacturer to build AR. Those glasses are coming. And when they do come, we will be built on those as well. So on the hardware side, Superworld is cross-platform, hardware agnostic. We're cross-platform on the software side. We're, again, on blockchain. So we want to be accessible anywhere you want to access Superworld. On audio and haptic suits. Again, we'll be everywhere.
So I like that you brought up the Google and Apple glasses, because Google had a pretty disastrous rollout of Google Glass, and people were, I don't want to say rightly so, but pretty paranoid of being recorded. How do you see that trend shifting now that Apple is going to try it and Google's going to try it again? Like, because if you're on your smartphone, I think at this point, and you're holding up to your face and you're walking around, at this point, people are pretty much desensitized to that, unless someone's actually in my face and it's clear they're recording. I'm pretty desensitized at this point to somebody holding up and walking around with their smartphone. Like, what do you see the tipping point being for that being the case with AR glasses, or have you thought about that?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I think that there's certain things in society that we take for granted, and I think you expressed that very correctly, that someone walking around and lifting their mobile phone and capturing an image has now become very commonplace. If you go to a concert, people aren't just watching the concert anymore. Everyone has their phone in front of their face. um, and I mean, that is a proxy for having glasses on, that where you're taking video or photographs utilizing glasses. And I don't think that's a really big leap. I think when Google Glass came out, I think it was less about the fact that people were freaked out by someone potentially taking photos of them. I think that was a concern, don't get me wrong, but I think it was more the form factor and the shape of the glasses that freaked people out.
Okay.
I mean, if someone had, I mean, you see this with the spectacles from Snap.
Yeah, those were
There's people.
terrible.
Yeah, and I mean,
Sorry if it's any of your friends who made it.
no, no. I mean, I guess what I was trying to say is that, like, even though those were terrible, which I agree, I think they're getting better and better, and I think the latest ones aren't too bad. I haven't actually tried the latest ones on myself, but I've seen them and they don't look as bad. But I think that even Snap's spectacles, had an even more mainstream acceptance of them. People weren't as freaked out by them. And and I think that if when Facebook comes out with a pair of Ray-Bans, or uh, uh, Dolby Bose, I should say, came out with a pair of AR glasses that does audio that look like
Yeah.
glasses. I think that once those glasses kind of just fit in and people, they
Gotcha.
don't
Yeah.
stick out as much,
Yeah.
I think people aren't going to have as much of an issue with them. I think if you have a pair of glasses that look a little bit out of place, then people can kind of target you. Like, hey, there's that guy with those Google glasses or whatever. And in the case where you have a pair of glasses that look like sunglasses, I don't think anyone's going to care as much. And then they're going to become a lot more mainstream and accepted, just because we all do it anyway with phones in front of our faces,
Yeah.
taking images and photos of places. So yeah, I think that's how it's going to work out. That's my opinion.
I mean, it would be interesting to see how it plays out, especially in more conservative places where, quote unquote, freedom is a big thing. But I mean, look at the pushback in San Francisco from liberals. I was amazed at how pissed off people were getting. And, but this is also back when, like I said, when people weren't literally walking around with their phone up in the air the entire time. And this was before uh, Pokemon Go and AR stuff. So take me back to, you said that you're focusing mainly on AR, and maybe I misunderstood in the beginning. So how are people experiencing? Let's say I want to go to the Czech Republic and I want to walk around. How would I experience that on my smartphone? Like, what would I actually be like? What would be like the actual physical thing I would be doing with my hands to navigate around the Czech Republic?
So, in Superworld, there's again two kinds of main ways to think about this. So, again, you can create and place content anywhere. And so, regardless of where you are in the world, you could place content, any type of content, anywhere in the Czech Republic. So, if you're talking about Prague, which is a city I love, you could, place content all over Prague, even if you're not in Prague. Okay, so and if I am in Prague, you could go boop, and you could place something behind me in augmented reality, and I could turn around and see it, right? And so again, if you've done that and you've placed content locationally there, and I happen to be there, I can walk around and see that content. Or again, if you've placed content in Prague, I don't have to be in Prague, and I can also discover that content by either clicking on the map on our desktop map that we have, where you can again view content around the world. You can buy plots of land from around the world, and so again, content can be discovered from anywhere, and that content again can be AR content, where you click on a piece of content and that content will open up in front of you in augmented reality. Or the content can be more immersive in nature, so it can be VR content, and so you could be again away somewhere else, not in Prague, and you could click on VR content and be pulled into a totally immersive environment, VR, utilizing your mobile phone. So currently we're only on mobile phone. And so again, just to be clear, the mobile phone allows you to see AR content, which is, looking through your camera and seeing digital information that's been added into your real world environment
Yeah.
in augmented reality,
Yeah.
or which often is called a portal. You can go through a portal where you go from AR into VR. And again, at this point, we're on mobile phone. But in the future, again, we'll build on a headset, whether it's a VR headset, or most likely XR headset where you can switch from AR to VR.
But like, let's say I have a friend who lives in Prague on Alphabet Street, and they go on a walk for like 6 blocks every day to get a cup of coffee on Beta Street, and I want to put something on the way for them, and I'm in Los Angeles. How would I actually surprise them and put it on some random street on the way for them to get coffee? Like if they were wearing like if they were just wearing their AR headset or like Google Glass or something like that, or Apple Glass, or just on the phone, just kind of like how would I surprise them? Like, is it like pinch to zoom and I'm able to explore the city, or because everything I saw so far on your app was I'm like watching a video of what somebody else already created, so I had no actual control over it. And so that I think that's what I'm trying to get at if I wasn't clear before.
Yeah. So again, to be clear, the mobile app is an open beta.
Okay.
The map on our desktop is also live, and so what we want to enable anyone to do is to place content anywhere in the world utilizing either our map, which is on the desktop on the browser, or utilizing the mobile app. So you can place content anywhere in the world utilizing both. And on the mobile app, there's a map screen. The feature to add content globally will be coming soon on the mobile app. And currently how it works is you can add content where you are, and it'll appear on the desktop map as well as in the mobile app where you've added that content. And very soon, we're adding the feature that enables you to select anywhere in the world, and you'll be able to add content using both of those places, the desktop map or the mobile app, to add content. But really, it's just again, very specifically, pinching down to where you are and adding content. Now, already in our utilization of the NFT salon on Superworld, you're able to add NFTs anywhere in the world, and you just give us, add in your, longitude, latitude where you want to add content, and it'll place that NFT in exactly that location anywhere in the world. So again, we've already started doing that, and we'll, completely allow anyone to place anything anywhere, any type of content, not just NFTs, very soon.
Nice. How did you guys actually?
It's longitude, latitude.
Okay.
What's that?
How did you guys actually map the world without people in it?
Yeah, so we're utilizing a variety of different technologies. The mapping of the world is a combination of Mapbox and we've also are utilizing, again, on the AR side, technology called SLAM plus GPS, simultaneous location and mapping plus GPS. And AR cloud technologies that come from Apple and Google, ARKit and AR Core. And so, you combine all those technologies together, and you're able to create a three-dimensional map of the world, and enable users to, again, create content anywhere, place content anywhere, and be able to do that on a three-dimensional basis globally. And then we, again, split up the globe into 64 billion NFTs. So we, again, incorporated Ethereum into that. And so the beauty of Superworld, it's a combination of, AR, VR, blockchain, AI, and, very specifically on the AR, VR side, SLAM plus GPS and AR cloud technologies.
Okay, nice. I'm kind of dating myself, but I honestly haven't used Google Maps for a while, and I can't remember if there's still people in there. Because I mean, that was a big thing of people would like see the car coming, and they'd have like a sign up or something like that trying to get on Google Maps. And I don't know if the technology now just cuts them out because I haven't used it for so long. outside of just like
Hmm.
outside of like driving directions. I mean, is that still a
Hmm.
thing? Are people still on there?
I think they are. I mean, they do Google Maps with like one of those cars that drive around, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
they take those videos and photos of all the different places in the world. And yeah, I
Yeah,
guess if you're like out on the street, you get into one of those photos. But I think you're right. They're also trying to prevent. They're probably using some camera vision technology to
yeah.
prevent people appearing in those photos and videos.
I mean, I know they were getting sued by some people because they didn't want to, like, they were like, why am I in this picture? I don't want to be on this for the entire world to see. You don't have my permission. So I think like I could see them really trying to get that technology down where they could eliminate people from those pictures or from those three-dimensional worlds.
Yeah, yeah. I think that I think the way that they're capturing the world has some limitations, I guess, and they're trying to overcome those by utilizing probably blurring or filters to kind of remove the people and other things that shouldn't be in those shots. But yeah, it's remarkable what we can do. And I remember first seeing those cars driving around with those cameras on top and
Yeah,
just being amazed. So yeah, there's a lot of investment is going into building out AR cloud, and we're really excited about it. And again, we at Superworld, we're cross-platform. We're building on top of a lot of technologies, and we really appreciate, our platform partners and all the investment that's going into building all these technologies. So we're building on the shoulders of giants.
nice. I mean, it's crazy just like our generation. How I mean, when I was a kid, I had a tape player answer machine, and now we have AR and VR. It's insane. Um, to go back to Ethereum, uh, a lot of people were having issues just even a couple months ago about IPFS and digital ownership and control over their IP and minting it on one platform and that platform going down and then losing it, or buying an NFT from a platform and that platform going down and losing it entirely. How are you guys handling that with your salon?
Yeah, so I think ultimately we will become more and more decentralized. We're kind of progressively decentralizing and utilizing a strategy that really emphasizes our long-term, mindedness in terms of our strategy. So we're very long-term oriented. We're very customer obsessed and oriented as well. And as customers prioritize more and more decentralization in terms of the storage of their content, I think we'll get there. Currently, the way we think about NFTs is that the content, if someone really wants to copy it, you can do a screenshot of your
Sure. Yeah.
screen, or whatever, of
Right
any
click.
of any
Yeah.
image, of any video, right click, right. And so that's always been the case when you're talking about digital or analog information, that you can copy it digitally. And really, the thing that separates a real, authentic NFT and the owner of that NFT versus just a copy of it is the token, and the ownership of the token that symbolizes ownership of the actual piece of authentic content. And so that is the differentiator, and that's kind of the stance that we've taken, is that currently, even if someone copies a piece of art or any type of content, if you're not the owner of the NFT, then that's actually not the real one. That's not the original. And as the storage technology on the decentralized side gets better, we'll definitely adopt one of those technologies, and we're still trying to figure out, what the best way to go with, which one is the best one to go with. And again, I think we are all realizing that the benefits of decentralization, are important, but at the same time, we want to make sure that we're also optimizing user experience. And blockchain is still, relatively slow for a lot of things. And as it speeds up and transaction speeds get better, I think we'll likely move to some other type of, more decentralized storage that gives people the security that even on the content side, the file that they have, that's also decentralized. But right now, we take assurance that the file itself, is available. It's out there. Again, it's the token that's the differentiator.
Yeah, and if anybody is familiar with what we're talking about right now, just when you buy an NFT, make sure you right-click, copy, paste. Make sure you get it on your computer, because what was happening with a few sites is they were going down and they were the ones storing the actual visual image, and the person didn't copy paste it, so they had the token but they couldn't see the visual image anymore, and that was just gone forever because that site went down. So always make sure you right click, copy paste, just in case, because it's yours, you paid for it, you have the token to prove it. So just always protect yourself in that sense. So I gave you the benefit of the doubt earlier, saying, best case scenario, Superworld wins out. Everyone in the world is on Superworld. Let's go worst case scenario with your salon. In the last 2 months, OpenSea has become the de facto juggernaut in the NFT space, pretty much wiping out 99% of all other competition. Like Rarity went from like 60% down to like 2% now of people on it. And OpenSea has like 97% of all users minting and buying and selling on their platform. What happens if you can't compete with them? Is Superworld going to be set up where it doesn't matter where I buy my NFTs, or my NFTs are stored, or this or that, or is it still going? I'm still going to be able to interact with Superworld exactly the same way?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that I'm glad you brought that up. So at Superworld, again, on our high level vision, again, we are an open metaverse, and we are focused on your real life. And so, we're often called the gateway to the metaverse because, again, we're all about reality. And, again, back to what I said about being very customer focused. Our customers, our super citizens, create content everywhere, whether it's other social platforms, whether it's other engines, or creating NFTs in OpenSea or Super Rare or other places as well. And so we've already, on our mobile application and on our desktop map, been open to NFTs being created on other platforms. And so if you create NFTs, even if you create them outside of Superworld, and you want to share them into Superworld, into augmented reality, we welcome that. That's exactly how we're set up. And so we've already, from the very beginning, allowed anyone to create NFTs anywhere on other platforms and share them into Superworld. We have a big partnership for Art Basel, which I can't publicly announce yet, but you'll see, that is working with a very well-known marketplace that enables those users to see NFTs in augmented reality this fall. And so we're doing
Nice.
that already. You see it on our map, also in our mobile app. We have lots of creators that are creating outside of Superworld and sharing their NFTs. And so we want to make anyone be able to come inside Superworld, buy with one click, inside of Superworld, whether you've created that NFT in our marketplace or in other marketplaces.
Nice.
So we're very open.
Nice. So pretend your VCs are never going to hear this podcast, and it's small, so the chances of them are I'm not going to. My feelings aren't going to be hurt if they never hear this interview. So pretend they're never going to hear it. If I gave you $1 billion tomorrow, what would you do?
What would I do? You mean personally?
Yeah. If I gave you $1 billion tomorrow, throw away VCs, throw away the pressure from you got to do this, you got to do that. What would you, Hrish, as a human being, if I gave you $1 billion tomorrow, what would you do?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And, I think the way that I've always thought about my life is if I could do anything I wanted to do every day and I didn't have to do anything. So back to your question, if I had, the resources to literally do anything, and to take it even to the next level, if anything I wanted to do would become successful, I would be successful at it, what would I do? And that's kind of been the framework from which I've, kind of, lived my life. I wouldn't say that I lived my life that way the whole time, but probably in the last 15 years or so, I kind of came to that realization, and really tried to pursue interests that I was really passionate about, that I knew that that I would want to pursue if I could do anything I wanted to do. And so again, way before I even started Superworld, I've been kind of living that way. And, I think Steve Jobs' speech, his 2005 commencement speech at Stanford, also kind of conveyed the same, idea. I think he says something like, if you wake up every day and you look in the mirror and you feel like what you're doing is not what you want to do, stop doing that, do something else. Kind of the same message there is, try to do things in your life as if this were your last day. What would you do if you only had a few months to live? And, again, another way of thinking that same kind of question. And so again, and I tell this to VCs, which is pretty awesome, I think, which is, I've kind of done a lot of things, as you know, in my background, and have had a lot of different experiences, and I have a lot of interests. And, VCs kind of want to make sure that, what they're funding you for is something that you're, very passionate about, something that you're going to be very long-term oriented about. And with Superworld, I can't imagine doing anything more exciting, more fun, more impactful for people, for the world. We're building a virtual world that improves humanity. It's something that I'm very passionate about. I think it's incredible. I'm enthralled and enthusiastic about the various technologies that we're using, the impact they can have. Again, our mission is, let's build a better world, and that for me is the ultimate. I just can't. I'm just so excited about it, and so back to your question, if I had $1 billion, I would be building Superworld. That's kind of what's the most exciting thing for me in my life, and it really combines all of my passions. It's a world. And so, you brought up fashion photography before. Fashion's a big part of this. Music's a big part of this. Movies are a big part of this. Education's a big part of this. Social causes are a big part of this. So, again, this really brings it all together. And if you gave me $1 billion, I would be utilizing a lot of those resources to move even faster to build Superworld.
So not Space Cowboy? Not Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos going to space?
I love space, and those guys are doing amazing things in space exploration, and I'm very excited and motivated and enthusiastic about all the work they're doing, and it's inspirational. And again, I think $1 billion is definitely chump change to go into
for those
space.
guys.
But at the same time, I think there's so many things on planet Earth that we need to focus on, and building a virtual world that incentivizes positivity for humanity, I think it's a pretty awesome thing to work on. So I'm very excited about it.
Nice. Is there anything else that you want to get off your chest while you have a microphone in front of you?
Well, I'd say the one thing that I would tell your audience and everyone listening is that we're really building Superworld together with all of you. Superworld is a platform that enables anyone to become a stakeholder in a variety of ways, to be able to create content and to monetize and discover. And again, we want to build a very open platform, and we'd love your help. So if you have an interest, if you have an excitement about what we're building, if you understand our vision, definitely go buy real estate. Reach out to us. Let us know what you want us to build. We're available at outreach@superworldapp.com. If you want to write me directly, I'm at CEO@superworldapp.com. Let us know your ideas. Again, we have a hashtag called Team Superworld, hashtag Team Superworld, emoji, earth, and heart. We use that a lot in our social posts. If you see our messaging, feel free to share and use that hashtag. It's a movement. Superworld's a movement. It's not just a technology. It's an idea. It's an idea about building a better world. And so I think my message to your audience is we can all build it together. We've built it in a way where it is accessible to everyone. We're building it in a decentralized fashion. We're soon moving into more community governance. And so we want to all build it together. And I'd love all of your help in making it a reality and continuing to make an impact and get more and more people on the platform working together to improve the world. So that's what I would say is, definitely if you're listening to this, get involved. Would love your help. And, I definitely would particularly love your insights as we continue building a Superworld.
Nice. I'll make sure to put all those links, emails, and thoughts you just said in the show notes for people. And so if you want to reach out to him, you'll have that all in the show notes. Hrish, thank you for coming on and explaining all this. You really cleared up a lot of stuff, and I think it has a lot of potential, and it's pretty exciting to hear about.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been a lot of fun, and looking forward to coming back and keeping you updated on all of our progress. So thanks again for helping us share our message, and it's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. See you in the next round. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.